All right, here with Susan Cass, attorney with Disability Rights Washington, and something that you guys brought to our attention that I was totally unaware of is that the state of Washington, they send basically, however you want to call it, youth prisoners or youth that are in detention. They send them contractually out of state to private facilities. And that's one thing people didn't know. And two, that it's private run facilities. And three, that these private run facilities have had some issues. Why don't you tell us about it, Susan?
Sure, actually, and the thing that was shocking to me is it's actually not even youth in detention. Most of the youth that we're talking about and seeing in these facilities are actually kids in the foster care system. So they're not even necessarily serving sentences. They haven't been adjudicated. It's children who have been removed and separated from their own families, and the state of Washington doesn't have placements for them in state, so they rely on out of state institutions. Uh, to I guess house and who are supposed to be supporting these young people. So this was something I didn't know about for a long time until I guess a couple of years ago, and it's something that we've worked really hard to try to eliminate the practice. The state of Washington now sends a lot fewer kids out of state, thank goodness, but we still rely on a company called Sequel, and Sequel has been on in the national news for some pretty horrific things that they have done to young people. And so we are asking our governor to say, okay, we need to just sever our ties with this company and stop relying on them.
So what I hear you saying is that the practice has been to send children that are in foster care, basically wards of the state, out of state for basically for care, and out of state into a private company. And this private company, what you're saying, has a lot of issues. Can you talk about some of the issues that you found with Sequel?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, the most recent thing that happened was it was in the news. It was a really tragic incident where a young man was being restrained by staff, and he unfortunately lost his life. It was a terrible, terrible incident. But the thing that was very disturbing is that when we have investigated other sequel facilities, this was one of our concerns, was the overuse of restraints where staff would physically handle young people, often for reasons that were not related to immediate safety concerns. And so there was one facility in Iowa back in 2018. We stopped sending youth to that particular place, but we continued to rely on Sequel and send youth to other Sequel facilities across the country. And other, sometimes it's the state licensing agencies, sometimes it's other advocacy organizations in other states like Ohio and Illinois and Alabama have found similar practices. And so it seems to be a pervasive problem of staff really kind of abusing their power. And so that's the number one safety concern. The other concerns are these are institutions that are very, very restrictive. Young people have basically all their freedoms taken away, and they don't go to school in public schools. They have to stay on campus. There's very strict rules about whether they can talk to each other. It's a very, very restrictive, almost punitive. I would say in some ways very punitive setting.
And so it's a punitive setting for young people who I mean, don't deserve to be in a punitive environment. These are young people who are in foster care.
Correct. Yes. So these, a lot of, I would say the majority have already experienced, some form of trauma, and so this is, I think, being separated from your people, your own community, is traumatic. And then on top of that, having to live in these conditions, and then being at risk, or having to experience the kinds of restraints that we were hearing about and seeing recorded in records and videos. These are the kinds of things that we don't believe young people should have to, any young person should have to put up with.
Right, and now you talked about you wanting Governor Inslee to act. What kind of communications or efforts or petitions or letters have you guys sent to the governor?
So we have sent one statement to the governor. It was signed by our organization, and I think I want to say 17 or 18 other organizations that represent and advocate for young people. And then we have also made it available online. So if other people want to send their own letters, and I don't know how many people have at this point, to the governor to make the same request. We've also made the request directly to the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which is the state agency that cares for foster children, and have asked them to stop using sequel facilities, and they are evaluating that request. So we decided we felt like there's enough reason to make the decision now, so we wanted to ask Governor Inslee to take action. And the other thing is that Sequel is a company that we know. They contract with other parts of state governments in other states. Sometimes they do work with the juvenile justice section of the state. They might work with the education. They might get funding through as like a healthcare placement through Medicaid. So we just want to make sure that other state agencies in Washington don't start to contract with Sequel, even if the Department of Children, Youth, and Families decides that particular agency is no longer going to work with them.
Sounds like you're looking for total divestment
That's right.
of any
That's
dollars
right.
into Sequel. Is there any like federal or national governing body for how an organization or company like Sequel operates, or is it different by state to state as far as what they're able to do?
Sorry, yeah, it goes state by state. I think that's one of our concerns is that, if there's an allegation that one of our youth has been, hurt or abused in a facility in Illinois, for example, Washington state licensors would not investigate that. It wouldn't be our own CPS workers. It would be the state of Illinois that would be in charge of making the call on whether the facility did anything that warrants, enforcement, or it would be totally out of the state of Washington's hands. The only power we really have is to decide not to contract with them.
Right. And for people who want to learn more about your effort here to get the state to stop working with Sequel, how do they find out more information about this effort, Disability Rights Washington?
So I don't have the link ready, but we do have an action network page that you can find us. You can go to our website, www.disabilityrightswa.org. And there's information there, and there should be links on our website to get to the Action Network page.
All right. Susan Cass, Disability Rights Washington, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.